Hello everyone. The images used in our slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this deck and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. Hello my dear students. I hope आप लोग सब बढ़िया होंगे and this is going to be the last video on the topic of syllogism, as you have already discussed that we are going through the revision phase of the topics that we have studied during this lecture series of syllogism. And in this particular lecture series, we have discussed a lot of things. We have taken the different types of syllogism. We have discussed about what exactly is syllogism. We have talked about what exactly is a statement, what exactly a conclusion is, and how we have to come from a statement to the conclusion based on the inferences and the logic. That is what all syllogism is all about. So in our previous lecture series, in our previous video, we were discussing about the different types of syllogism as a revision for all those students who have just joined us and are looking forward in order to understand that what exactly are the different types और किस तरीके से ये टाइप्स इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं हमारे क्वेश्चंस को जो भी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशंस में वी आर गोइंग टू फेस. So basically in this particular lecture series we are going to just revise whatsoever we have studied in the continuation of the last video, and post that the syllabus of your syllogism will come to an end, and then we will be starting with another set of important areas which is going to be there in your logical reasoning in all the competitive examinations that is going to be conducted by the statutory authorities. So without wasting any time further, my dear students, let's continue with the revision of the things that we have studied in our lecture series of syllogism. And perhaps again I would like to tell you that these things we have already studied, but why we are studying it, why we are revising it, just to ensure that if we have left any part which is important for your knowledge, and in order to ensure that all the students whomsoever are going to give examination with where which the syllabus talks about syllogism, they should be 100% confident that they have tackled each and everything which is related to syllogism, whether be it the theory, whether be it the types, whether be it the important concepts, whether how to differentiate between the different type of syllogism. All we have already studied. The main contention of this particular lecture series is to ensure that whatsoever we have studied so far are in your brains and you are getting a complete idea that if these type of questions have been asked for in your competitive examinations, you will be able to attempt those questions without any hassle, without any fear, without any problem. So my dear students, as you have already known that we have started with the types of syllogism, and in our previous video we talked about the categorical syllogism, which we discussed about how to differentiate between them. Then we talked about conditional or hypothetical syllogism, which we talked about if and then statements. तो ये सारे statements आपको assist करते हैं किस चीज के लिए my dear students? ये आपको assist करते हैं in order to ensure that you can differentiate between the different type of syllogism. Why is it important? Because when you're talking about syllogism, you need to understand that syllogism have different rules and different sets whenever we are talking about the different types of syllogism. For if and then statement which we are talking about disjunctive syllogism, there are different concepts. When we are talking about hypothetical syllogism, there is a different concept. When we are talking about conditional syllogism or categorical syllogism, there is a different concept altogether, and the structure is different, and that is why it is important to understand that which type says what. So in the previous video, we have already discussed about the 4-5 types of syllogism. We have discussed about polysyllogism, which we talk about a chain of syllogism, in which the conclusion of one syllogism serves as a premise for the next. Okay, so statement, argument. So statement and argument, whenever we are talking about one statement and then there is another statement. So whatever be the premise from these two statements will serve as a third statement for the next chain of syllogism. So this is how you have to differentiate between syllogism, which is polysyllogism, when you're talking about the types of syllogism. So क्या कहता है ये, इसमें ये कहता है स्ट्रक्चर में कि each syllogism builds on the previous one to form a longer logical argument. Now how will it be? So पहला statement बोलता है in this example that all humans are mortal. ठीक है, this is the first statement. Then you have the second statement which said Socrates is a man. Now the conclusion or the inference from this particular would be that Socrates is mortal. How is it so? So you remember that we have drawn the diagrams, Venn diagrams, in order to understand. Let's try to understand this example, what a polysyllogism is talking about. All humans are mortal. So how will it be shown that this is humans and this will be mortals? And now Socrates is a human. So Socrates is a human. Socrates will be inside this particular circle. Now, therefore, Socrates is mortal. Yes, Socrates is mortal. This is what the inference is talking about from the first statement that has been provided. Now, after understanding that this particular statement has given us this premise, or we have come to this inference from the statement that has been provided that Socrates is a mortal. Now, there is another sect of syllogism, and that syllogism has been mentioned here. All mortals need food. Now, there is a statement which says that there is mortals. Okay, all mortals need what? They need food. So, all mortals need food. Therefore, now mortals, obviously we have clarified that Socrates is what? Socrates is mortal. So, Socrates will fall where? Socrates will fall somewhere here in this side this circle. So, what we can confer from this particular statement, therefore, Socrates, who is a mortal, also needs food. Also needs food. So this type of syllogism, where which one syllogism, the inference of one syllogism is acting as a statement for another syllogism, this type of syllogism is considered to be polysyllogism. So this is the main structure, and differentiation tip, obviously we have talked that there should be a sequence of linked syllogism where conclusion of one point becomes the premise for the next. So you will be getting a question where which you will be getting two questions, the two statements, and then there will be an inference or the conclusion that will be provided. And then based on those inferences and the statement, you will be asked a question. And therefore, this can be possible. This is a this is a possibility. This is a probability. So this type of question might be asked to you in your competitive examinations. So please make sure that you will be able to identify the different type of syllogism based on the differentiation and the types that we have studied so far. Now, then we discussed about spheroids. When we talked about spheroids, we talked about a very important concept that we need to understand and keep in mind is that it is a form of polysyllogism. Now, spheroids is not a different sort of syllogism or different type of syllogism, but is inherent in the previous syllogism that we have studied, that is polysyllogism, which says that with several premises leading to a single conclusion. Several premises leading to a single conclusion, and a series of statements where the predicate for one becomes the subject of the next. Now, how will we be able to differentiate is that the structure says that the final conclusion connects the subject of the first premise. If we take these four as statements, the subject, which will be the subject out of these two things, which will be the subject, my dear students? The subject for this particular example or the statement will be dogs, because this has been mentioned first and this has been mentioned afterwards. So subject will obviously follows the this predicate. Here the first statement talks about all dogs are mammal, where dogs will be considered to be the subject, and then this is the predicate. Now if you can closely and minutely observe, the predicate for the first statements becomes the subject for the second statement, and in the same manner the predicate for the second statement becomes the subject for the third statement. And therefore, when we come to the inference, what we have figured out is that the subject of the first statement and the subject and the predicate of the last statement will be combined together, and therefore we can come to this conclusion that X of the first subject, okay, and the Y, the predicate of the last statement are combined together to form an inference where which all dogs are considered to be living beings. So this example gives us a clear idea that how spheroids are and what exactly spheroids means when we talk about polysyllogism as a part of types of syllogism. सो यहाँ पे जो आपको सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज याद रखनी है माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स, कि जहां पे भी आप देख रहे हैं स्टेटमेंट ऑल डॉग्स आर मैमल, ऑल मैमल्स आर एनिमल्स, ऑल एनिमल्स आर लिविंग बीइंग्स, सो अगर हम इसका वेन डायग्राम ड्रॉ करेंगे तो किस तरीके से होगा? ऑल डॉग्स आर मैमल्स, सो दिस विल बी डॉग्स, okay, this will be dogs, and then this will be mammals, okay, this will be mammals, and then above that, that will be what? That will be living beings. This will be living beings. Now the question, what you can infer from this statement, what we can infer, that one subject, the subject of the first one becomes the predicate, or the predicate for the second one, first one becomes a subject for the first one. So in the same manner, we have to figure out that what exactly would be the inference. So from the Venn diagram, if this would have not been mentioned, that therefore all dogs are living beings, if this would have not been mentioned, my dear student, what inference would have you been taken from the statement that has been provided? You obviously would have drawn the Venn diagram that has been drawn in front of you, and from this particular statement, the first inference that you can draw is that all animals, all dogs, which is lying in the center of this Venn diagram, are what? Are obviously the bigger circle, whatsoever will be representing, that will be the subject of the first statement, that is the dogs, will obviously be contained in the last circle. And if any subject which is conjoined by the word all, followed by subject which the predicate has changed to the subject for the second statement, in that particular area, what we can infer is that the subject of the first statement and the predicate of the last statement can be conjoined together to form an inference. And that is what spheroids is all about. A series of statements where the predicate of the one becomes the subject of the next is nothing but spheroids. Look for a chain of reasoning where which multiple premises leading to one conclusion. It is known as spheroids. So my dear students, I suppose you have understood what exactly spheroid means, and it is a very important topic to understand, because when we talk about polysyllogism, you will find questions which is related to polysyllogism in your competitive examination. और उनको differentiate करना थोड़ा सा difficult इसलिए हो जाता है क्योंकि one inference and one statement, another statement providing you an inference, and based on that inference, you have to figure out what will be the relation between the inference and the another syllogism that has been provided. And student gets confused because certain times what they fear is that the inference that has been given as a question in itself might be wrong. It might be wrong at that point of time. So we will have to figure out, and there will be an option that will be provided, that the inference taken from the first syllogism might not be correct. So that is what we need to understand. यही आपका सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है समझना, कि जो इन्फेरेंस आपको क्वेश्चन में भी दिया होगा, मे बी they might not be correct. So therefore, it is very important for all my dear students to ensure that the question, the statements, and the inference that has been provided in the statement itself as a question should be cross-verified. And based on that particular inference only, you can move forward and you can solve the next syllogism. Okay. Now, moving forward, then there is another set of syllogism which is talking about statistical syllogism. You need not get confused here, because if this particular thing has been mentioned, that X percentage of A are B, you can obviously confer it as some A are B. Don't get confused, my dear students, with this type of example where which you will feel that, sir, अगर यहाँ पे लिखा है कि 70% of A are B or 20% of A are B and C is A, therefore C is likely B. So यहाँ पे statistical syllogism में what we need to understand here is that the word likely, possibility, probability will be there. Mostly, likely, probably, possibility. Because what we are talking about is statistical syllogism, where which there is a percentage involved. 50% जो भारत के नागरिक हैं उनको इंग्लिश बोलनी नहीं आती, या 50% भारतीय जो हैं वो अपनी ग्रेजुएशन के आगे पढ़ना पसंद नहीं करते. This is a particular number that we are mentioning. We are clearing it. We are not saying that some of that or some of it, but what we are saying is that exactly this percentage of A are B, and if X is A, therefore if 30% of A are B and X are A, therefore there are chances that even X can be B. So how we are coming to this particular probability? Because we are assuming this fact कि यहाँ पे if you are talking about X percentage of A. Okay. So what we can infer from this statement is, let's take the example that 70% of A are B. 70% of A are B. Now 70% of A are B and C is A. Meaning which out of the 70% of A which are B, C is exactly A. As we mentioned, this C is A. What does that infer? That there will be a circle which is going to represent C, and there will be a circle which is going to represent A, and this is how it will look like. That C is A. So meaning which all the attributes that A will have, C will obviously have. Now it is saying that 70% of A are B. Therefore, there are chances that C might also be B. Okay. So this is what we are trying to understand is that whenever there is statistical information that has been provided, a probability, you can obviously convert it and you can assume it as some x's are y. Okay. If for your better understanding and for a competitive approach, you should consider it as some x are y. But if there is a second statement where which this is saying that percentage of x or that percentage of A is equivalent to y, then y is likely to be whatsoever relation has been derived in the first statement. That is how the student will be able to differentiate. Now, if you take this example, what does this example is saying? It is saying that most students in this class are good at maths. Most students in the class are good at maths. So if we draw this as a diagram, this is a student. Okay. And when we are talking about good at maths, so it will look like this. Most of the students are good in maths. John is a student in class. Now, John is one of the students in class. So now John can be here also. John can be here also. Okay. And according to this particular statement, what it is showcasing, when it is saying most of the student in the class are good in maths. So meaning which this diagram can again be represented in this manner, that if this is student, most of the students in this particular class are good in maths. And this is a circle which is going to represent maths. What we can infer? We can infer that majority of the students are good in maths in this particular class. Now, John is one of the students. So John can be here also. And John can be here also. Okay. But what we can derive from this example is that inference says that John is probably good in maths. Now you can see the word probably, meaning which that's not 100% sure. There is a possibility because John can be here within the intersection overlapping between the student and the maths, and it can be outside also. But since most of the students in the class are good in maths, that means majority of the students are good. Therefore, John is one of the students. There is a possibility that John will be good in maths. It is not 100% sure, my dear students. Again, I am telling you, it is not 100% sure, but we are taking this as a possibility, as a probability that can be possible. So whenever there will be any question which is related to percentage, it will automatically mean that it is talking about statistical syllogism. And what you need to infer from this particular type is you should look forward for these type of words, mostly, likely, probability. So if this type of words are mentioned, and from the Venn diagram, it is very important for these type of questions also that you're drawing the Venn diagram. No matter if it has been mentioned as no matter as it has been mentioned as X percentage of A or B. So you should not be worried कि sir ये तो सिर्फ 45% हो रहा है या 30% हो रहा है 20%. No, even if it is taking 10% or even if it is just overlapping, we can take one more inference for your better understanding, my dear students. This circle could have been like this also. This is students and this is mathematics. Okay, this is this percentage of area where which there is a chances. Now the student are good in maths. Now, John is a student in the class. This is the first state. This is the second statement. So, John can be anywhere here in the circle. John can be here also. John can be here also. So, now if John is here, then there are chances that John can be good in maths? Yes or no? Still, there are chances. Here, there is a chance. So, what we have understood that what is the takeaway from the understanding of statistical syllogism is that there is a probability, there is a chance, there is a percentage of acceptance that this can be possible. Taking that thing into your mind, you should always remember that whenever there is a question which is relation to syllogism, what you need to infer is, what you need to understand is that these syllogism will end up with an inference where which the answer will have the words like all, mostly, likely, or probably in their inferences. And this is how you have to differentiate between the types of syllogism when you talk about statistical syllogism on a clearer note. Now, moving forward, now we have discussed about the different type of syllogism. We have known that there are certain words which is helpful in differentiating the types of syllogism, and this will help us in identifying the types. Logical structure, analyze how the premise connects to the conclusion. Very important statement that needs to be understood. How the premises connects to the conclusion. Categorical syllogism deal with inclusion and exclusion. Conditional syllogism deal with dependencies, and disjunctive syllogism deals with alternatives. So whenever we are talking about categorical syllogism, and we have understood that all, some, and no are being referred to, what we can clearly understand is that it is talking about categorical syllogism if the words all, some, and no has been mentioned. Now, after we have understood, okay, this is categorical syllogism, now we have to take into mind that there are certain rules that has been governing syllogism when we're talking about categorical syllogism, which says if all x's are y and all y are z. Okay, you have remembered this. This, what is that? This is a statement that can be provided to you, and this, based on that, there are different conclusions that you have to figure out. And this particular statement says that all x's are y, all y's are z. So now we can clearly understand that all x's will be z. How? Because we are talking about inclusion and exclusion of one particular thing with the another. So if how they are related to each other, that is what we are trying to understand through the categorical syllogism. Then conditional syllogism deals with dependencies. So if it is going to rain, then the floor will be wet. Okay. So there is one statement which is saying that if there is going to be rain, the floor is going to be wet. Second statement says there is no rain. Inference from this particular statement would be the floor is not wet. Second, it has not rained. So these are the two statements. This is a two inference that you can derive if there is a statement which is saying that the floor is not wet, therefore it has not rained. So if this is a dependency, that if X will happen, then only Y will happen. So in the same manner, disjunctive syllogism talks about an alternative, that if this will be there, X will not be there. If it is raining, sun will not be visible. If I am driving, I won't be able to sleep. So if there is an alternative that has been provided, that type of syllogism is called upon disjunctive syllogism. So now you have understood the differences. Check if all the premises are stated or if one is implied. If one is implied, then what does that mean? That it is a form of ethymeme syllogism, where which we have to suppose one statement that has been not provided. Then complexities, identify if there are multiple link syllogism or chain of syllogism. Now, it is not there that if there is a question that you will be clearly, there will be a clear mention that this is categorical syllogism or this is a polysyllogism. No, it is not like that. You will get questions that will be an amalgamation of all these different type of syllogism. But since you are aware that this particular syllogism is talking about this and that particular syllogism is talking about a different perspective, you will be able to solve those questions with a correct approach. And the answers that you will be getting obviously will be right. And the most important point is you will not take much time to solve these questions, which is a very important thing to be kept in mind whenever we are solving syllogism, my dear students. Now, by recognizing these elements, you can accurately determine the type of syllogism and apply the correct logical approach to solve the analysis. And this is what I've been explaining to you from the very beginning, that the types of syllogism, correct approach you will be getting whenever you are going to solve syllogism, if you know what exactly are the types are. Now, the important tips to solve syllogism becomes a very important point of discussion whenever we are revising, because these are the topics that you need to keep in mind. These are very important topics, my dear student, very important tips. If the students are keeping these topics in their mind, if their tips are on their in their remembrance, and when they are going to solve these questions, it is going to be very much helpful. So to excel in syllogism, अगर आपको सिलोगिज्म में सफलता हासिल करनी है, इट इज एसेंशियल टू प्रैक्टिस एक्सटेंसिवली. आपको बार बार प्रैक्टिस करनी पड़ेगी सिलोगिज्म की, एंड ग्रास्प द अंडरलाइंग कॉन्सेप्ट थॉरली. जो उसके अंदर का कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको समझना बहुत ही ज्यादा आवश्यक है. While every candidate develop their own strategies and shortcuts, सब लोग अपना तरीका इस्तेमाल करते हैं. मे बी your way of learning syllogism before this lecture series might have been completely different, and that is totally okay. If you are comfortable with the way, the approach that you are going to, the way you are practicing your syllogism, I won't recommend that you change the way and you try the way in which we are solving, but rather you should be concentrating over that particular concept and approach to solve the syllogism if your answers are coming to be correct. But if there is a chance that the answers that you are getting are not accurate, or there are probabilities where you are getting wrong answers, then I would advise you, and it is a recommendation, that you should be adhering to the concept that we have discussed in this lecture series, because this particular concepts and tips has been developed after thorough analysis of syllogism and deep understanding, and only after this whatsoever we are studying in this particular lecture series is being represented. So that is why, if you have an approach, if you feel like that my approach is fine, need not get into this actual lecture series, you can end this video and you can just go through the practice papers so that you become more acquainted with syllogism, and practice will be more than sufficient for you. But if syllogism is an entirely new subject for you, a new topic for you, then you should be adhering to the things that we are going to discuss from now onwards. The very first important topic that you should be keeping in mind, that understand the basics. Universal statements, all and no, all A or B. Till now you have already understood that whenever we are saying that all A or B, implies that every element of A is included in B. कि जो चीजें A के अंदर हैं वो B के अंदर पाई ही जाएंगी. And no is B means that there is no overlap between A and B, meaning which no element of A is included in B. Now, particular statement, some not. Some A or B indicates that at least A is also, at least one A is also B. Very important point. Even 1% of A, if is B, if it has been mentioned as some A or B, meaning which 1% of A can be B, 20% of A can be B, 30% of A can be B, 99.99% of A can be B, but it will not be 100% of A. Then it will be converted as all A or B. So if there is even 1% of A which are not B, then it will be converted into a particular statement where which the word some will be utilized. And if some A are not B, means at least one A is not B. Okay, very important. Again, let's read it out. Universal statement says all A or B implies every element of A is included in B. Every element of A is included in B, and when the statement no A is B means no element of A is included in B. Okay. Now, if some A or B, अगर कुछ A B हैं, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि at least 1% of A will be B. If some A are not B, it means that there will be at least 1% of A that will not be B. Okay. So how we can draw this diagram? If we are saying that some A are B, this is A and this is B. Now we say some A are B. This will be the representation. If they're saying that some A are not B, some A are not B. So we are talking about this inference. Okay, so now you have understood the difference between the two statements, some A are B and some A are not B. Some A are B, the intersection will be here. Some A are not B, this is the intersection we are talking about. Okay, now after understanding that the universal and the particular statement, you have understood that how the representation of these two will be. Then you will have to focus over the Venn diagram. Venn diagram is one of the most effective way of visualizing solving problems. So as we have discussed, just by merely drawing some A or B, all A or B, we were able to figure out that what exactly we are referring to. And the circles obviously will help us in determining, because the subject will be represented through circles. So if we are talking about some apples are yellow. Okay, some apples are yellow. So there will be a circle that is going to represent apples, and there will be a circle that is going to represent yellow. And that there will be an overlap. The way in this particular diagram, there is an overlap, this particular portion. So this is, let's consider that these two circles, if it is there, and this is going to be A and this is going to be B, then some A are B. So this is the representation of some A are B. So the visual representation assists us in quickly identifying that what will be the relation between the subject and the predicate mentioned in the statements. That is why Venn diagram takes a very important role whenever we are solving syllogism. This converge statement, very important for you guys. Very important, because students always get confused here. Conversion means some statements can be converted to make them easier to understand or to reduce the relation. If we are saying that only X are Y, it meaning which that all Y are X. Now only X are Y. This particular statement, only X are Y, you can convert it into all Y are X, and then you can solve the Venn diagram in the same manner in which you are solving all X's are Y. So conversion becomes an important point whenever there are complex syllogism and the statement that has been mentioned are not giving us a concrete inference. So we can convert the statements in our benefit, and we can draw the Venn diagram accordingly. So if the statement says that all A are B, we can convert it into some B are A. Because if saying all A are B, then there are chances that at least 1% of V would be A. Correct? At least 1%, because all A are B, then there are chances that at least 1% of V will obviously be A. So we can say that some B are A. No A is B. No A is B will obviously be converted into as no B is A, because there will be no relation between A and B. If we are saying that no A are B, then we can directly say that no B is A. Some A are B converts to some B are A. We can convert it. Some B are A is equivalent to some A are B is converted to some B are A. This is possible. Please understand, my dear student. Let's try to understand the difference between all A are B and some A are B. When we say that all A are B, and when we say some A are B, we will come to the same conversion, that some B are A. But if we say that all A are B, we cannot say this statement that all B are A. This is a wrong conversion, and you cannot take that into consideration. This can only be considered if it would have been mentioned that A is B. A is B. So you need to understand that there is a minimum overlap circle. Minimum overlap talks about that whenever we are drawing a Venn diagram, which is going to represent a subject and the predicate, so there should be a minimum overlap in order to show the relation. So let's take this as an example. This is A and this is B. Now this is a minimum overlap which is showcasing that some A are B. In the same manner, if this is the representation of A and this is B, what you can derive from this particular statement, my dear student, that all A are B. Also, you can derive from this statement that is some B are A. Some B are A. And in the same manner, If it is saying that no A is B, then this diagram would be represented as this is A, this is B, and there should be a difference between the both of two. Now, what is important to understand here is that some A or B can be converted to some B or A. All A or B can be converted to some B or A. No A is B can be converted to no B is A. But if we are saying as some A are not B, if we are saying that some A, if we are saying that some A are not B, that does not have a direct conversion. That does not have a direct conversion, meaning which you cannot say that some B are not A. Why? I'll tell you. Because this representation could have been in this particular manner also. This is A and this is B. This is A and just wait a minute, my dear students. Yes. Okay. So you can say it as this diagram could have also been represented in this manner. So this is A and this is representing another circle B. So if this would have been B and this would have been A, we can say that some A are not B, correct? We can say that some A are not B, but can we say it as some B are not A? Because all B are A in this particular diagram. Therefore, some A are not B will have no direct conversion, and you cannot convert any statement where which has been mentioned that some A are not B. But if some A are B, then you can convert it to some B are A. And if all A are B, you can get it converted to some B is A. But if it has been mentioned as some B are not A, that you cannot come to this direct inference and it cannot be converted. Use this conversion to find indirect relationship between the different terms. Very important point of discussion for you guys, and you need to keep this in mind whenever you are solving this question, that some A or B is equal to some B or A. No A is B is equivalent to no B is A. All A or B is equal to some B or A. But some A are not B is not having any sort of conversion. So don't get confused that if some A are not B, then it will be said as some B are not A. That can be true, that cannot be true. Both inference can be made out from that. Therefore, direct conversion is not possible in that particular manner, my dear students. Now, moving forward, let's try to understand this particular thing also, that we have to identify the syllogism that we have already studied. Different dealing with will guide you and approach the solving the problems that we have already told a number of times. At least some rule. This at least some rule, at least some means that minimum overlap, which I was talking about. That if whenever there is word mentioned some A or B. So if we are, let's take three inferences here for your better understanding. If we say A is B, how you will be drawing it? This is A. Okay, if this is A, and when we say A is B, so there will be an exact overlap between A and B, which is showing that A is B. And now if we say that all A are B, if we say that all A are B, so this will be A and this will be B. Okay? It is showcasing that all A are B and some B are A as you have converted. Now, you can see the difference between A is B and all A is B. What is the difference? If we say A is B, there will be an overlap, exact overlap over each other. Now, if we say some A are B, then there will be some overlap between A and B, and this is showcasing A and B. Some A are B. At least some portion of that will be overlapping each other. And that is what we need to understand. That whenever there is a statement which says that some A are B, some B are C, some C are D, you can have minimum overlap, but you cannot by yourself define that this particular overlap will cover this or that, but there should be a minimum overlap between both the circles that is going to be represented, the different subjects and the predicates. This can help eliminate certain conclusions or validate them based on the minimum requirement. So if there is an overlap and then there is a statement, some A are B, and then obviously there will be an overlap. And if there is a statement which says that all A are not B, you can directly remove it because that statement has clearly contradicting the statement that has been provided. Apply the complementary pair methods. If this particular statement has been mentioned that all A are B, then is it possible that some A are not B? Is it possible? No, it is not possible. Only one, either this or that will be possible in this particular manner. So complementary pairs needs to be figured out. No A is B versus some A is B. So if it has been mentioned as no A is B, so either this will be true or this will be true. Both simultaneously cannot be true. So if one conclusion is true, the complement is automatically false. Recognize these pairs to quickly assess the validity of the conclusion. These tips are very much handy for you, my dear students, because these tips are going to be making you efficient. The more efficient you will be, the more chances of you clearing these examinations will increase, because you will be investing lesser and lesser time to solve syllogism. And that is why it becomes a very important concept as well as a topic for your understanding. Then either or, in the same manner, you have to, in the same manner, the complementary figures has been mentioned. In the same manner, you have to understand either or logic, where if one follows or two follows, both together cannot follow. But if this is true, then that will not be true. These are particularly useful cases where the conclusions are mutually exclusive and one must be true. One must be true. Okay. So this is either or statement. Either or statement, obviously, you must have gone through the statement that has been provided. And if both the statement has been mentioned that A is B and A is not B, or all A is B and some A are not B, so this particular complementary figures will not be taken into consideration. Only one will be possible. So the answer that will be coming out is either A or B. Now understand possibility conclusion that we have already discussed, that all A being B is a possibility doesn't mean that all A are B. Okay. All A being B is a possibility, meaning which doesn't mean all A are B, meaning which all A in being means, which means that there is minimum criteria that some of the A are B, but we cannot say that all A are B. Whenever there is a word possibility mentioned, you cannot directly conclude the conclusion that this will be possible. There is a possibility, meaning which there is a possibility, but there is no potential logic, but rather there is a logical potential for this relationship under the given condition. There is a potential, but this is not 100% true or agreed upon statement. Okay. So possibility you will definitely find in your inferences. So whenever the possibility is there, all you need to figure out is that whether it is at all possible or not. If there is a statement which is saying, I'll give you an example. One statement is saying all A are B. Okay. Another statement is saying some A are B. Okay. And then there is an inference which is saying that some P are A. Some B are A. Okay, this is first inference. And then there is another inference which is saying all B are A is a possibility. All B are A is a possibility. Yes, my dear students, that will be considered to be correct inference, because there are chances. You have to figure out that whether this can be also be considered, whether there is a possibility of the same. If the particular statement, if the one statement that we have said is all A are B, okay, this is the first statement. And the another statement we are saying is some A are B. So what we can figure out is from the inferences that some B are A. That is 100% sure. That is following. But all B are A is a possibility. Okay. So if it is a possibility, then both the inferences will be considered to be correct. Okay. But if this possibility would have not been there, then you cannot infer that the second conclusion would have followed. So you see, just by using the word possibility, an inference can be considered to be correct. So that is why these words has to be kept in mind whenever we are solving syllogism. Now, focus on the subject predicate relationship. As I have already informing you, subject and predicate forms a very important part whenever we are solving questions. Some P is Q. Some P is Q. You can say that some Q is P. Correct? But can you say if some P is Q, then can you say that all Q are P? No, you cannot say, because you cannot take that thing into consideration. But if you have knowledge of what exactly is the subject, the first word where that you will find in the statement will be the subject, okay, and the second will be the predicate. So for instance, in the statement all A are B, A is the subject and B is the predicate. This can be helpful in deducing the indirect conclusion. Very important point, that what is the subject and what is the predicate you need to understand and you need to figure out from the statement that has been provided. Certain times you will see a statement where the predicate has been mentioned first. Okay, example could be only A or B. Now only A or B, here the student might get confused. They will feel like that A is the subject and B is the predicate. But when you will convert it, you will figure out that the statement says that all B are A. Therefore, the subject will be B and the predicate will be A. So, on the basis of the subject and the predicate, you need to figure out the conclusion or the inference that is being drawn from the statement. That is why the knowledge of the subject and the predicate is very important. Identifying the subject and the predicate in the syllogism becomes a very important point of discussion whenever we are talking about syllogism. Okay. Now, the last portion, memorize commonly valid inferences. Very important for you, my dear students. All A are B and all B are C. Okay. So we have talked about this in polysyllogism, where which it will implies that all A are C. Okay, this is polysyllogism, example of polysyllogism. Now, no A is B, no A is B, separate diagrams representing A and B, this being A and this being B, and no A is B and some A are C does not imply that some C are not B. Please understand, this statement is no A is B. So, this is no A is B. No A is B and some A are C. So this can be a diagram which is going to represent C. So what it is saying, that some A are C and some C are A. Obviously it will be, the conversion will be there. Does not imply some C are not B. So you cannot come to this direct conclusion just by seeing this diagram. You cannot say that some C are not B, because there can be another diagram that could have been in this manner, where which this is A, this is C, and this is B. Here also you can see that some A are not B and some A are C. No A is B, some A are C, but there is no direct relation between C and B. Okay, some C are not B. You cannot come to this conclusion, my dear students. So that is why it becomes very important for you to understand that certain conclusions, until unless you cannot assume, until unless there has been no relation that has been mentioned, you cannot come directly to this conclusion. If all A or B has been mentioned and all B or C has been mentioned, that you could have come to this conclusion. But on the negative side, when there is particular statement that has been mentioned, universal statement you can derive. Particular statement, it is becoming difficult. Some A are B, some A are B and some B are C does not imply that some A are C. Some A are B and some B are C does not imply that some A is C. You cannot come to this conclusion based on the inferences that has been provided. Very important point of discussion. Very important for you guys to remember, because this is where the student lacks. They draw the Venn diagram. They draw the Venn diagram for this last statement, which says that some A are B and some B are C. And then they come to the statement that there are intersection between B and C. There is an intersection over B by both A and C. So there can be a chance that some of the A which are B and some of the B which are C are common. Therefore, some A or B can be possibility. No, it cannot be a possibility until unless there is a direct inference that has been taken. Okay, my dear student, I suppose you have understood that particular point also. Reverse syllogism. Reverse syllogism means that for some complex problem, try to work backward from the conclusion to the premises. So in the same manner, you are drawing the statements, Venn diagram for the statement. Rather than drawing Venn diagram from the statement, you have to draw the Venn diagram from the conclusion. And then you need to figure out that whether the statements are being followed or not. This particularly can be done if the statement that has been provided are not complete. For example, when you're talking about ethymeme syllogism, where only one inference has been given or one statement has been given. So from that particular statement, you can come to the inferences that what could be the implied syllogism or the implied statement that we can refer to. And then on that basis, you can figure out that what it could be have been the second statement. And assumption, very important point of discussion. Assumption should not be made beyond the statement. आपको हो सकता है पता होगा कि X apple green color के नहीं होंगे या red color के होंगे, and then there is a statement that will be mentioned that all apples are red or all apples are black. So you cannot just neglect that sentence, or you cannot replace that sentence by saying that this particular statement is not correct because universally it is not acceptable. No, whatever the statement says, whatever the statement is providing as an information, you have to stick to it, you have to adhere to it, and only that statement has to be taken into consideration whenever you are going to solve any question which is related to syllogism. Very important point of discussion. Obviously, students tend to miss this point, but you should not assume. If there is a relation between A and B, and there is no direct relation between A and C, but there is some sort of relation between B with both of them, then you cannot directly come to this inference. You cannot directly assume that there should be some relation between A and C. They might be correlated with B, okay, but this cannot be assumed that there is some relation between A and C until unless the statement is providing you such approach. If this would have been mentioned that all A are B and all B are C, okay, all B are C, then you could have assumed, we could have come to this conclusion that all A can be C, okay, all or some of the A can be C or all A are C. But in the same manner, if this would have been mentioned as some A are B or some A are B and some B are C, you cannot come to this conclusion that some A are C. Okay, very important point of discussion. Until unless the statement is not providing any relation between the subject and the predicate, you cannot relate it. My dear students, again, I'm telling you, you cannot relate it, you cannot assume it until unless the statement is providing you any sort of relation between the two. Now, the conclusion for the universalities derived from the universal statement, all no should also be universal. Very important. Whenever a conclusion is derived from a universal statement, when their statement is starting with all or none, you need to understand that the statements, the conclusions that is being derived should also end with the word all or no. You cannot take that into consideration that if it has been mentioned as all, then it will be saying as some of A are not B. If it has been mentioned as no, then you cannot come to this conclusion that some of them will be A. Because if there is a universal statement, it has to be universal. Similarly, conclusion from a particular statement, some and some not, cannot be universal. For example, if some A are B, some A are B, can we say that all A are B? No, we cannot say that, because that will be us moving from particular conclusion to a universal one. If we are saying that all A are B, all A all A are B. Then we can say some B are A. Some B are A. Yes, we can say that. We can come to this conclusion that if all A are B, some B are A, and some A and some A are also B. Because all A are B, meaning which all some A will also be B. But what you need to understand here is, students, that if we are talking about all A are B and there is only this relation that has been talked about, then if it has been mentioned as all A are B, the conclusion should also follow as all A are B. It will not be like some B are A. Because yes, you can take that as inference, but that will not be considered to be the correct approach. Taking that thing into consideration again, practice with different patterns, that you need to practice with different patterns, have various patterns. These patterns will be assumption, 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 and then these are the patterns that you need to understand, if at all. Very not very important, but practicing makes a man perfect, and that is why it is important that the different type of syllogism, how uncommon or common if you follow, then your chances of improving or practicing in efficiency will improve, and your getting the correct answer will obviously improve. And then simplify the statements. As I have told, only A or B, it has been mentioned. You can directly convert it as all B are A. Simplifying the statements will assist you in figuring out the correct way of drawing the Venn diagram. And that is how you will be assisting yourself in creating a clearer picture of the relationship. And once you have the clearer picture of the relationship between the subject and the predicate, solving syllogism will be a cakewalk for all of you students. This can often make easier to visualize and draw the correct conclusion, my dear students. So, and the possibility conclusion, if the word possibility has been mentioned, it means that there is a scenario where it could be true, even if it is definitely true in the current context. Okay. It is not definitely true, but if there is a possibility, then obviously we have to take that into consideration. Use the no overlap rule wisely. If it has been mentioned as no A or B, there should be a strict boundary. There should be no overlap at all between both A and B. Practice with time constraints. Whenever solving syllogism, it is very important that you keep a stopwatch in front of you and you take note that within this many minutes, I was able to solve only this many syllogism. And accordingly, you have to increase the speed. We are aiming that whenever we are going to solve any syllogism, it should not take us more than 30 seconds to solve that syllogism at the most. At the most, it should only take 30 seconds for you to solve the syllogism. And that is a very important point. And that is why by practicing again and again, again and again, and again and again, you will be able to reach to that level where which you are accurately solving the question in a efficient time, less time taking, and fast way of solving the syllogism. So by applying these tricks and practicing regularly, you can enhance your ability to solve syllogism efficiently and correctly. Then all these things is the crux of what we have already studied, that one should not create an own data in their mind. If X are Y, then I will assume by myself that Y will be Z. You cannot assume. Whatsoever the statements are, you strictly adhere to it. Words like few, at least, some, etc. are the basics to solve such type of questions. Pay attention to these words. When we are saying few, then it is meaning some, at least, some. So this is what it is showing, a minimum overlap rule, that this should be the diagram whenever there is statement which is showcasing this statements. Try only data to be followed while solving syllogism is the data mentioned in the question itself. Again, the same thing is being resonated by the first and the third statement, which says that if there are two subjects and predicates, just stick to it. Don't assume, don't feel, don't add, or don't come to a conclusion which is going to be contrary to the inferences or the conclusion that has been provided. So with this, you have to solve questions. Try to attempt the syllogism questions particularly in a sequential manner. Why is it so that it is being said that you should solve questions in a sequential manner? Because often it has been observed that the question that will be put forward in your competitive examination, which is related to syllogism, will obviously be taken from any reference book, or maybe somebody will make that by their mind. So the easier questions tend to come up in mind earlier. even in your reference copies in your books also, the easier questions will be mentioned first. So once you are able to solve those questions, you will gain confidence. And once you have gained that confidence, you will be able to solve even the difficult questions by applying a little bit more mind. That is why it becomes very important to solve the questions in a sequential manner when it is come to syllogism. Okay, my dear students. So I suppose uh, this is more than it. I have tried to explain you all the important discussions that we have studied. After that, we have solved more than 50 questions, starting from question number 1, which was talking about fingers, legs, and all. Then we came to the conclusion. I'm not going to get deep delve. I'm not going to deal with the questions again. So with this, I would like to thank you all, my dear students. I would like to wish you the very best of luck for your preparation of competitive examination, especially syllogism. And I hope that this lecture series is going to be very much beneficial to all my dear students who are going to give the competitive examinations where which syllogism is being asked. I would like to again recall you that nothing is impossible for you if you will try to solve the questions, if you will be adamant on getting success. Nobody is going to stop you, my dear students. So with this, I would wish you the very best of luck for your competitive examinations. May you excel in your life. And with this, I would like to end this lecture series of syllogism. We will be continuing with other part of the competitive examination in our other lecture series. But with this, I would like to end the today's video also. And with this, I would again like to wish you perhaps the last time, very best of luck. May you excel and may you have a wonderful life ahead, my dear students. Bye-bye and take care.